Welcome, everyone. I'm Rachel Siegel, the Director of Strategic Programs at Illuminate. Thank you for joining us today from all over the world. Illuminate is a hub for Jewish activism, leadership, and philanthropy, the donors and the doers. Fueled by our shared determination to create a more just and equitable world in which all people are afforded the resources and opportunities to achieve their dreams. One of our signature initiatives, The Collective, is an active, ongoing community where visionary entrepreneurs and leaders collaborate and offer each other strategic support and advice. We nurture these transformational women leaders. We call them our jewels, Jewish entrepreneurial women executives and leaders, by providing financial resources, fostering relationships, and offering educational opportunities that both inform and inspire. This cadre of multi-generational women tackles a broad range of issues affecting women and other marginalized communities throughout the United States, Israel, and the globe. Welcome back to our Crown Jewel Conversation series. This monthly series gives us the opportunity to learn from and interact with these bold and creative leaders. We believe that the integration of activism and philanthropy is essential to social change, and that greater impacts can be made when philanthropists and activists intersect to form true partnership. These relationships are vital, deserving, and in need of nourishment, inspiration, and elevation. It is not only about financial resources, but also about intellectual and spiritual generosity. When women step forward to solve big problems, history can be made. We are all visionaries, whether we are the donors or the doers. We are the antidote to despair, frustration, and anxiety. Alone, we are a drop in the ocean. Together, we are creating a wave of change. When you support Illuminate, you not only support 40 organizations, soon to be 50, run by phenomenal women, you are supporting a movement. Our conversation today will allow you to get to know one of these incredible women in this movement. Lara Mendel is the co-founder and executive director of the Mosaic Project, which has provided over 70,000 individuals from elementary school students to adults in the workplace with the skills they need to build the diverse, inclusive communities that they envision. Lara began imagining Mosaic when she was just 15 and attended a week-long summer camp that brought together students from different backgrounds to address prejudice and discrimination. Her determination to do this work was strengthened during a college program that brought Jewish students to Germany. Meetings with former Nazis, as well as visits to concentration camps where her great aunts, uncles, and cousins were killed, solidified her commitment to fight all forms of hatred. After graduating from Stanford University with a BA and MA in anthropology, Lara had a brief career in cross-species communication, working with Coco the gorilla, various dolphins, and formerly captive spider monkeys. She then worked extensively in violence prevention, youth development, and cross-cultural communications on 4 continents before returning to the US to found Mosaic. She is an experienced backpacker, aspiring surfer, and a black belt in Kaju Kenbo, I probably mispronounced that, Kung Fu. If, like Lara and Illuminate, you believe and want to build diverse and inclusive communities that are free from hate, then you are in the right place. After this conversation, we will open the floor to questions. Feel free to write down any questions that you have while Lara and Rachel talk. Send them in the chat if you'd like, or you'll have the opportunity to ask them later. For now, we're muting everyone to avoid any background noise. We encourage you to turn on your camera so that we can see you, even if you're eating lunch or breakfast, depending on where you are, that's okay. And now I'm pleased to introduce the president of Illuminate, Rachel Weinstein.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I really appreciate it. And welcome, Lara. It's such a privilege to be in conversation with you. I feel like we need 2 hours after that bio introduction because you have had so many adventures. I just want to hear about all of it, including the surfing and the martial arts. But today we're going to focus on your work with Mosaic, the Mosaic Project. And I can't believe that you said you've been doing this for 23 years, but it really sounds like the seeds of this were embedded in you even way beyond that. So tell us about what brought you to this work and what led to the founding of the Mosaic Project.
Thank you. And thank you so much for this opportunity. It is such an honor to be here. Yeah, I say, as it says in my bio, that I had the seeds of the idea when I was 15. But if I really think back, I think it started when I was 9 in 4th grade, which is the same age as the primary age group that we work with, our 4th and 5th graders. This summer that I was about to attend 4th grade, it was a time when the discussion of forced busing in LA was all that was talked about. And at that time, there were private schools that really were started to segregate at that time. And at that time, there was a magnet school in Los Angeles, the first magnet school in LA that started. There were some in New York at the time, but this was the first one in LA. It was called the Center for Enriched Studies. And my family found out about it, and it was intentionally created in this atmosphere of debate around forced busing. It was intentionally created to draw students from all different backgrounds to create a diverse community. And we decided that summer that my older sister and I should attend the school. And I remember going to meet the principal and having him, I'm under 5 feet now. So at that point, I don't know, I came up to my own hip now. And I remember the principal kneeling down and shaking my hand and welcoming me and knowing that I was part of this really important statement against racism. I don't know that I would have used the word activism at that time, but I absolutely understood that that's what this was, and that my family was making this pledge towards diversity. So I think that's really where it started. But here I went to an intentionally diverse school, and we didn't talk about it. It was just assumed, but nobody talked about the fact that we were all getting on a bus from an hour away, most of us, and we didn't talk about it. So it was when I was 15 that I went to this program that intentionally brought high school students from diverse backgrounds to talk about specifically racism, sexism, and homophobia divided up in that way, in a way we don't divide it so much at Mosaic. And that was the first time at that camp that I addressed these issues outside of my Jewish community and outside of my Jewish family, where they were talked about all the time, given my family background. You mentioned that on my father's side, my grandparents escaped Germany just in time, and the rest of our family, almost everybody, was wiped out in the Holocaust. And my father got here, was born here, but his first language was German. And they lived in a German Jewish enclave in Chicago. On my mother's side, my grandfather escaped the Russia in 1920 underneath in a hay wagon, hiding with his siblings. So it was a topic that was discussed all the time in my family. But here I was, 15, at this camp, and I was the only Jewish student in my cabin, and the only Jewish student that a lot of my cabin mates had ever met or knowingly met. And that was a mind-blowing experience for me and really has impacted who I am. And I stayed involved into college, and I saw a lot of things that I thought were wonderful, and I saw a lot of things that I think didn't work. And it was at that time that I thought, I want to do this work with younger kids. It's too late to wait until you're 15, and already the fear and difference in anger is already entrenched. I saw violence break out there. I saw kids wanting to get sent home, getting sent home. It worked for me. It didn't work for everybody. And I thought, I want to do this work with younger kids, and I want to do it in a more loving and imaginative way. And it was only later that I learned that we start to exhibit prejudice between 2.5 and 8 years old. And some studies now say even younger. So it really doesn't make sense to wait. So then that really solidified my commitment to doing this work with younger students. And then I got involved in environmental education and saw the power of getting students away from their usual setting into the outdoors, and how profound that can be, and what trust can develop. And then I think what really sealed the deal was that trip to Germany, where we lived with German students and visited concentration camps side by side with them, and we met with ex-Nazis to talk about what had happened. So that really solidified the commitment.
Yeah, it's so interesting how you talk about the segregation of talking about the isms, the racism, the homophobia, all that, because it all boils down to hate, really, in a way. And I think, we can see by where we are in this moment of time with the recent declaration of this day of hate, like how relevant and how important the work that you're doing is, to help prevent, these kids from growing up and going in that vein. So can you tell us a little bit about what are the guiding principles to your work?
Yeah. A lot of it is reaching students when they're young. We go as young as we've even worked in some preschools and done preschool trainings for preschool teachers. And our in-school programs in our partner schools are for all ages. I would go younger. The reason we choose 4th and 5th grade is that's when we can get them away from home for a week at our outdoor project, which is our primary program. And it is a great age, and then that's where they intellectually are really capable of understanding this, but their hearts are still very open for the most part, and it's pre-hormones, which is important to me. That matters. We get them before 2nd semester, 5th grade, if possible. So part of it is reaching students when they're young. And it was at the time that we realized that nobody else was doing this immersive work with younger students in this way. These types of programs that bring people together like this start in high school or later in college or even later. There's nobody who was doing this. And still, unfortunately, there's not a lot of work being done with younger students in this immersive way where you bring them together. Unfortunately, our schools are just as segregated now as they were when Brown versus Board of Education happened. And so we bring them together, and there isn't anybody else that we know of doing that with such young children. So that is a basic principle, of starting when they're young. And then we also have our pyramids of violence and peace that I'm actually going to share. And this is an idea that I became more familiar with when we were preparing to go to Germany, this group of 18 students from Stanford Hillel that had all lost family directly in the Holocaust. And we had a lot of reading and studying to do beforehand. And one of the ideas was this idea of a pyramid of violence. And it started what I saw here at Prejudice, this idea that prejudice leads to discrimination, which leads to violence, which leads to war, genocide. At Mosaic, we add these bottom layers of segregation leading to ignorance and fear. This idea that when you're not used to hanging out with people who are different from you, you end up relying on the stereotypes around you. And that, of course, can lead to fear based on ignorance, and it leads to fear. We just don't have enough experience with people who are different from us, especially the way that our schools are now. A lot of people say, well, you're in the Bay Area, your schools are diverse. No, some are, but most are not. When our students at our program divide up for teacher time, sometimes you can tell what school they go to. Often you can tell what school they go to by the color of their skin. And we're in the San Francisco Bay Area, right? Our world needs some work on these issues. So the idea of the Mosaic Project is that we are working to dismantle this pyramid, starting with this bottom layer of segregation, which could be physical separation, but you can also be separate from the person at the desk next to you or in the cubicle next to you if you don't really know them, if you don't really know their story and empathize with them. So the idea is that we're dismantling this pyramid of violence, but not that we're just dismantling it, we're transforming it into the pyramid of peace. So this idea follows that if segregation leads to violence, that connection leads to peace. And we start by just bringing people together and then focusing on respect. And we break respect down to be look again, respect, look again, and look again, and look again, and give people a chance breaking past your first prejudices, your first judgments, and looking again. Recognizing that other people can have different perspectives, points of view than yours that are valid. And that helps us empathize, put ourselves in each other's shoes, and then we're ready for assertive communication and assertive conflict resolution. And we define assertiveness, we contrast it with aggressiveness and passiveness, but we talk about it as being strong without being mean and kind without being weak. And the idea is that these lead to peace, and not just that peace is an ultimate destination, we are working towards it, but it's a way of life. And that we're constantly working on these levels, and everything we do here is an act of peace. So if you look at this right here is a visual summary of what we teach, whether it's an hour-long workshop with adults or whether it's a whole week at our outdoor school with our 4th and 5th graders. This is what we're doing. We're dismantling this pyramid and we're building this pyramid. And research in contact theory says that that's what needs to happen to overcome prejudice. That is not enough just to bring people together of any age. It isn't enough to just throw kids together and say, play. That's a myth that they're all gonna just play. Trust me, they don't just play usually. They need a lot of support to mix it up and play. And that what contact theory says, it isn't enough just to do that, that you have to bring people together for a prolonged period of time. They have to be working on common goals. They have to have role models from diverse backgrounds, modeling building friendships across differences. You have to talk about the issues head on. You can't pretend they don't exist. And you have to be giving people conflict resolution skills. And those are all the elements that are present in our outdoor project, even before we knew about contact theory. But it's really nice to have all the research in contact theory to support our work. So we say that this is a visual summary of what we teach, but we also write songs for everything we teach. We have a couple of children's music albums, and our music is a musical summary of what we teach. We have songs for all of this. I'm biased, but I think they're really good.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I want to talk to you more about some of these principles, but I also know that you have a fabulous organizational video, which sort of showcases your program. And I think it would be an excellent frame for the continuation of our conversation for people to be able to sort of see your work in action. So I would love to take just a couple more minutes for you to share that video at this time, and then we can continue our conversation.
Great. Yeah, it's just 5 minutes.
Okay,
all
great.
right. Give me a thumbs up if it sounds okay, but it's ready to go here.
Okay.
Many years after Brown versus Board of Education.
I'm going to start from the beginning.
Here we are, many years after Brown versus Board of Education, and yet our schools and our communities are just as segregated as ever. You have schools that are physically so close to each other and yet worlds apart. Our children are growing up with little or no exposure to people different from themselves. This separation leads to fear and prejudice, discrimination, and violence. And the cycle just continues. It isn't hopeless. There is something we can do, and it's pretty simple. We know that when people actually meet people, know people who are different from them, we can break through those misunderstandings. This is what inspired me to create the Mosaic Project. The Mosaic Project breaks this cycle by reaching students before negative attitudes about difference become entrenched. Our principal program is our outdoor school. In each session, we bring together approximately 90 4th and 5th graders from very different schools, very different communities. We provide fun, immersive, experiential programs that address issues of difference, empathy, and conflict resolution.
When I learned about being assertive, it's strong without being mean. You should stand up for yourself instead of being passive.
I said jump.
No, I will not jump. The reason why I like Mosaic is it teaches you how to have mutual respect, self-respect, how to be open-minded, how to get to know people better.
Students participate all together in large group sessions by the campfire. And then they split off into smaller groups where they practice their skills and tools through gametivities.
Cool off and take a deep breath. Everybody, what you gonna do? gotta stay cool.
I'm gonna lay down.
Lay down. And my favorite thing to dream about while I'm laying is this.
Stop, cool off and take a deep breath.
What?
The Mosaic Project is so much more than anti-bullying or social and emotional learning. It's both of those things. But it also puts everything into the context of these social systems that we're all a part of.
Prejudice is a judgment made about someone without knowing the person.
We intentionally bring together a group of diverse adults, usually more diverse than the students have ever seen, all working together and who clearly love one another and have a really good time together. And this is essential to what we do.
I love bringing out whatever they're hiding inside of them and just having them open up and blossom like I did while I was here.
What I love about Mosaic is that it's one of those places where you can be your total self, and there's not many places like that.
I was very shy at first. I wasn't talking that much until my cabin leader, Juan, he told me some of his backstory, told him some of mine. He made me feel very comfortable at Mosaic, and he opened me up. I want to give other kids the opportunity that Juan has given me.
The changes that we see in the students and the youth leaders in just 1 week are incredible.
I came from a place of a lot of privilege. Getting to know people from different backgrounds did change my life in many different ways. Coming back as a youth leader, I feel like I'm doing the action that I wanted to do when I was in 4th grade. I've seen students become more empathetic for one another and be able to talk to each other.
I see barriers breaking down every day. There's just something about this place that does that.
I used to not want to be friends with people who were a lot different than me, but now I have a lot of friends who are different than me. I met a friend named Alonzo. One of my other friends is Theo. Alonzo and Theo are both in my cabin. They're nice people. They're good friends.
I learned a lot of things, and everybody has been so kind to me. I think I'll come back when I'm 15 as a cabin leader. I want to teach other kids the way of Mosaic.
Every now and then, I watch interactions between children from drastically different backgrounds, actually talking to one another, actually empathizing, actually hearing each other's stories. And it will really hit me like, wow, nowhere else but here would they even be sitting anywhere near each other, let alone talking. And that's how we're going to change the world.
Amazing. You make it look so fun. I mean,
It is really fun.
These kids are really young. I mean, they're showing up with their teddy bears and you talk about turning this work into game-tivities. Tell us more about that. Like, how do you break down these rather complex, pyramids of violence and make it digestible for young people?
Yeah. It is really fun. And I do want to emphasize that because the idea is that we're creating a microcosm of the world that we want to see. And the world that we want to see is diverse and just and peaceful. And it's also joyful, right? So we have to have fun. Creating peace and bringing people together for understanding, that's joyful. Yes, we get very intense and we cry. As some kids say, there are things that we do they call sadtivities. And we call them change-tivities, right? We get deep and we also have a lot of joy and we sing and we dance and we have fun. It is experiential education, and the core of that is having activities or game-tivities, as we say. Game-tivities where there's discovery, that the children can do on their own, right? That will have a game or a simulation. And then the idea is, how is this like real life? And they have this aha understanding in those moments. And then we break them down, we debrief them, we talk about them. I think that I've done a workshop for your visionary circle, and I think that'll be shared at the end. So you can get a little bit of some of those activities and what that might feel like. But yeah, it's games, it's activities, it's songs, it's stories, it's opportunities for kids to have those aha moments. And then there's some classic teaching too. The last day of the outdoor school, the students go to Conflict Resolution College and they earn their doctorates in conflict resolution, their CRDs. They come away with a paper diploma and what we call an ediploma. It's a cookie diploma that we encourage them to eat and not keep, so it doesn't get gross. We are the only institution authorized to give out doctorates to 4th and 5th graders and authorized to give out doctorates in conflict resolution. And we authorized ourselves and we're very proud. And the kids get super into it. They want those doctorates, they do, you know. That's a diploma they can take home with them and use. So there's some actual teaching as well as facilitation. And of course, the teaching is as active as possible. But here's the deal, is that it isn't just for kids. I really believe that adults need whatever kids need. We don't want to be bored either. What's that rule of that, like we have 1 minute of attention span for each year of our lives, but it ends at 15. And I would say it ends at 10. Like, I think we have 10 minutes before we have to at least engage people emotionally, if not actually in an activity. And so a lot of what we've done is taken more classic social emotional learning, diversity activities for older people. We've invented our own, but we've also kidified a lot of them. And then we bring them back and we use them in our corporate trainings too, because adults want to have fun too. We think we don't, but we're just big kids and we want to have fun, A. B, if we can't explain these issues in 4th and 5th grade language, then I don't think we actually understand them. That's what I always say to our staff. Like, we do this unusual dinner about the unequal distribution of wealth, and it's this big, profound activity. And when we were developing it, it got so intricate. And I was like, we're doing this for our own intellectual satisfaction and not for the kids at this point. If we can't break it down into 4th and 5th grade language, do we really know what we're talking about? And I see that in these issues that I think as adults, sometimes we intellectualize these issues as a way to protect our hearts. And we try to get right to the heart. And I think that works for adults as well. Go right to the heart. Not that we don't think through it at all, but we can get so nitty gritty and argue about details and language. And I mean, it is important to be on the same page in terms of language, but I think we get so in our heads. And I think it's all good for all of us to bring it into our hearts.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about those corporate trainings. Who are you working with and what kind of work are you doing with them?
Yeah, so we do trainings for all ages, right? We have our main program is the Outdoor Project, which you just saw, focusing on 4th and 5th graders, but you saw in there a lot of the youth leaders, the high school students too. And some of them come to us as high school students or college students right away. About half of them were with us when they were little, when they were in 4th or 5th grade. So that's fun. You saw some of those students. So those youth leaders have their own program all year round. And the highlight of it is they serve as cabin leaders for the younger kids. Then we do a lot of professional development. We have a whole in-school program that goes into our partner schools, but we'll do professional development for teachers at any school. And we also do a lot of parent trainings. And then we do trainings for other organizations and also corporations. And we do those on a sliding scale. And our corporate trainings help us raise money for our kids program. So hire us. And we've worked with Gap and Old Navy. We've worked with Bayer Pharmaceuticals. We've worked with, in the pandemic, StubHub, and a bunch of Bay Area organizations. And that has been a silver lining in the pandemic. And after George Floyd was killed, we got a lot more requests from businesses who had been kind of dancing around us, but then were like, okay, we're going to do this. And because of the whole shift to virtual trainings, we still do in-person trainings, but it enabled us to work with teams that are international teams. We had from one business, Bay Area business, they had an office in Europe, and we were able to do everybody together. For StubHub, we did a training for their Hong Kong office. And that was amazing to be able to do that. And so it's opened up a new world for us, the virtual trainings. We struggled a bit to make them experiential, but I think we got it down now. I love doing adult trainings virtually. Kids trainings, I still want to be in person.
Of
but
course.
Adults, I like them just as much online.
Yeah. I was surprised when we were chatting before this that, because I would have expected you to say during the pandemic, I mean, it's all about putting people in relationship with one another. And here we couldn't be together. And so I was really expecting you to say that, the Mosaic Project took a really big hit during the pandemic. And yet you told me that it was like a time of growth. And you just gave one example of like being able to do virtual trainings for companies around the world. In what other ways have you seen growth of your organization?
Yeah, not that it wasn't hard. I miss being with the kids and I miss being at the outdoor school because obviously we weren't able to run that main program. We just started back this year. And we have a children's board of directors again now, which is just amazing to have kids in our office again. And they're hosting an event that we have on Saturday, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But there were definite silver linings for us in terms of those trainings and really developing our virtual resources, some things that we had been planning to do for a long time and just hadn't had the bandwidth to do. So one of them is releasing our second children's music album. We'd had a bunch of songs written, ready to go. We just hadn't recorded them, at least not to our liking. And that is something we were able to do last year as we released our second children's music album. And I think we can put a link for that in the chat too. But check out our music and spread our music. As I said, I think it's really good. So we have 2 music albums to check out there. We also did an action guide for families and for businesses. That was an interesting thing that happened is we posted the original draft of our action guide for families, 21 tools and tips for taking interpersonal action for social change. And we posted that online, and I'm forgetting, a furniture company. A big furniture company whose name I'm forgetting saw it there, and international organization, and they contracted us to do a business version for them.
Amazing.
And we did a steel case furniture, and we did a business version for them, and then that inspired us to really refine our own business version and our kids one, and that we can put that link in the chat too. And that there's one for families and one for businesses, and it has all sorts of links to videos and extra resources in there, including our music. And also we put together a MoTV, a Mosaic Television MoTV YouTube series, really for our kids and teachers so they could have contact with us during this time. But I think those are also really helpful and really fun for anyone. So we did that series. And finally, we put together a searchable database of curriculum. We have so much curriculum that we've developed over the years, and we have already a curriculum guide for teachers, but we'd been meaning to do a second book. And then we were thinking, well, really, it's a lot. Maybe we should do an online bank, but we did not have the bandwidth to do it. And now we have an activity bank where you can go in and type in, check the box for 3rd grade empathy, and then a bunch of empathy activities come up for you. Some of them have Google Slides that go with them and instructions and extra resources. So for any teachers out there or camp directors, any educators, that's definitely something to check out, is our activity bank. So those are just a few of the online resources we were really able to develop. And thank you for setting that up. Yeah,
that's very generous of you to be sharing that curriculum in that way, because some people become so proprietary around their curriculum. It's so very generous of you to be recognize the importance of this work and making it accessible to other educators and organizations.
Yeah, somewhat generous. I will say it's free for our partner schools. We do have a small charge for other organizations. However, if people can't afford that, no worries, we will hook you up with a free code. And if you come to our event on Saturday, you get a free code.
Oh, there you go. Amazing. Amazing. If that's not a plug. So all this growth is translating into your pursuit of your own facility. Am I right?
Yes, that's the other thing we worked on a lot during the pandemic. That's right. We've been renting camps since the beginning. We were in Napa for 16 years, and now we've been in Felton, just north of Santa Cruz, California, renting camps, and it isn't sustainable. I want this organization to outlive me. My co-founder passed away 2 years ago now of cancer during the pandemic, and I want to make sure that this organization outlives us. And in order to do that, we have to have our own camp. We just can't be at the mercy of other people's camps. And sometimes, we just never know when we might get kicked out, when they need it for their own purposes, things like that. So all sorts of reasons we need our own camp, and the dream has always been since the beginning to have it in the heart of the Bay Area so that we're close to our partner schools and we can have easy, strong presence in the outdoor schools and have the freedom to spread out and run throughout the year and have our very diverse staff live in the diverse Bay Area rather in these areas that have these camps in them are not diverse areas for a diverse staff to live year round. And so the dream's always been to be in the heart of the Bay Area. And a few years ago, a family of supporters of ours, the Forstalls, bought us land in Castro Valley, which is only 23 minutes from our Oakland office. And yet you feel like you're worlds away. It's only 10 minutes from the BART station and from a highway, but you feel like you're just in a whole other world. And so we have been working to turn that into a camp. And we have been started our fundraising for that, our capital campaign, and then we've been deep in the permitting process with the county, which not surprisingly, I see some nods, is taking a very long time. The pandemic probably extended it, but maybe it would have been long anyway. But we are making progress. All of our site plans are done. You can see some of those in the link that was put in the chat. Our site plans are finished. Our environmental impact report is done. And we are waiting now for a hearing date from the county where we'll have our first public hearing and need to turn out all our supporters. So we're getting there, slowly but surely we're getting there. And the dream is to have this be a center for equity, empathy, and effective communication across differences, right in the midst of all of our partner schools.
Amazing. And what's your hopeful timeline for building it? And like, how many does the camp accommodate? Is it, cabins, dining hall? Is it traditional camp? Are there other facilities that we wouldn't recognize, from a traditional camp?
Yeah, it's traditional, and yet it's definitely has a modern feel. You can see in those plans. My ideal timeline was about 3 years ago. So working on that. I want to open it tomorrow. We're so at the mercy of the county. We really are, and they're a very long process. But yeah, as fast as we can. It is traditional camp in that there are going to be 12 cabins, a staff house, a dining hall, and a meeting hall, 2 stories. But where it feels, they have a very modern feel. For example, the cabins and the dining hall too, they have glass garage doors that open up so that they're indoor outdoor spaces. So every cabin, that was something that we really wanted, is for like to just blur those lines between indoor and outdoor, but also have good shelter for when it rains, which we don't always have at the camps that we rent. It's not ideal in the rain. So we really want to set it up well for that so we can be year round. And the landscaping is going to be just very magical fairyland. We do have fairies at Mosaic. Kids see fairies, and we chose a site where we definitely thought that we saw some sites that we checked out where it's like fairies make pit stops here, but they don't live here. And we have a site where fairies live, and we're very lucky to work with Sierra Water Progressive, which is a leading water landscape architect, gray water firm. And they have done all our landscape plans for us and have it set up so that something's in bloom all the time. And there's edible garden and rainwater catchment in gray water, and will help set the gray water standards for Alameda County. And so that also is going to be a really big part of it, the sustainability of the site, and of course, solar power as well.
That's amazing.
It's magical. You can check it out there. And then if you come to our event on Saturday, or even sign up, we built our gap year students during the pandemic. This is something else that happened during that time. Built a virtual model of the camp on a site called Gather, which is like, think old-fashioned video game meets Zoom. And you can take your little avatar and wander around the site and go into cabins and explore the plans and even see some 3D model videos of the site. Yeah, I should put that. I'll put the link in the chat for that.
I think someone just put the link in for the community fundraiser as well. So for this coming Saturday.
Yeah.
So, the future, you alluded to it, right? You want this organization to be sustainable and go beyond you. And so that's part of the future. But I think I have a big, what do you see as the future of the Mosaic Project? And more importantly, what does success look like to you for your organization and for this work?
Yeah, thank you. Well, success for this work would mean that we didn't need us anymore, but we know that more and more, it's really clear that we're really needed, unfortunately. Yeah. Although I should say there'll always be maintenance. I don't think it's one of those things where it's like, my goal is to put ourselves out of work. I think we always need maintenance when it comes to human relations and treating each other well and empathy. But yeah, what success looks like to me is having this site up and running year round and sustainable with a really nice endowment to keep it going. And that it really is this, not just the children's camp, but also a center really looked at as a center for equity and empathy and effective communication, where we can have other kinds of retreats there too for adults as well. I also envision having a teacher training program where teachers can come and see the program in action and get their own training, the way our partner teachers get now, but for visiting teachers as well, and having summer teacher institutes. We have done those online, but having them on site. I envision this as being a model where people can come and build their own versions. We get requests everywhere from all over. Come start a Mosaic here. And we don't have the resources to do that right now. My response is always like, yeah, if you're willing to spearhead it and help fundraise it for it, we'll support you all the way. But we don't have the bandwidth to do that. So I would love to get to the point where we do, or at least that we can really support people in starting their own. Whether it's Mosaic or something similar. And there are some versions of that. There's a summer camp in Illinois called Camp Kupugani that uses our curriculum for a summer camp. There's a camp in Mexico that uses our curriculum, and there's a camp being developed in Japan, all by our staff alumni. So there's some of that going on, but I would love to see a lot more of that. I would love to see it be a model for social emotional learning, the same way that the environmental education science outdoor schools are for environmental education. There are a lot of those all over. I think there need be a lot of us all over too, or something similar to us all over as well. To me, it's a no-brainer. We've got to start this when we're younger. We got to bring people together.
And in a sense, you're training the trainers, right? I mean, by investing in young people and then having them come back and be the mentors. And then, like you said, you've got graduates who are now going out around the world and taking this with them. So I think that's the ripple effect of what your work is, I think, and the potential continued ripple effect for what your work is tremendous. So I applaud you for catching them so young and staying with them, right, as they grow. We're coming to the end, and I only have one more question left. But before I get to that, I see that some people are putting questions in the chat, and I invite you, if you have a question, to please put it in the chat. But this question is around, the recent censorship around books, around the country and around beliefs and creeds. And, there's been a lot of, like around, the AP African Studies new course curricula that came out. There's like a lot of debate around this, around the ideas and how they're taught. And so, like, do you address that all? Do you provide trainings and education, through your work when you're working with educators on that?
Yeah, oh, definitely. That's something that comes up a lot as we teach assertiveness with teachers. We do a lot of role plays, again, it's experiential education. It's a lot of hands-on learning. And so a lot of our role plays are around interacting with angry parents and how to handle that and stay assertive. We were in the middle of an online middle school teacher training on January 6th. Right in the middle of it, somebody put in the chat, can we talk about what's happening? I'm distracted. And I didn't know I was in the middle of leading a training. And so we had to stop what we were doing right then and deal. And there is a lot of fear amongst the teachers of just, we're teaching on Zoom now. Parents are listening to what we're teaching. A teacher was shot recently, I'm afraid to talk about these issues, right? So we do a lot about just how to address controversial, just challenging topics. And in fact, in our resource section on our website, there is a guide that we've developed of simple questions for facilitating a really challenging discussion. And it's supposed to be a one sheet that can be used for something like the January 6th or for any kind of situation. So we do have tools for that. And I honestly think that when we come together and we talk with empathy, that we can reach people who are afraid of this stuff. What I hear a lot is that people don't want white parents in cases who are pushing against it, don't want their kids to be made to feel guilty. And I get that. Like we talk a lot about at Mosaic that the 3 keys to peace are listening, empathy, and assertiveness. And we go deep into those 3 keys, right? And the peace blockers or connection blockers, we sometimes call them keys to connection or connection blockers, are blame, guilt, and defensiveness. And we really work to overcome those. And yeah, we don't want to shame kids, you know? And I think that there is a misunderstanding that the goal of this work is to shame kids. That's not what the goal of this work is. And it really comes down to bringing people together so that we actually know people from different backgrounds. It's not that I don't think there's a place to do this in our individual communities. I think there is. And I am so excited and honored to be part of Illuminate and to be with my fellow Jewish women, all of us from diverse backgrounds, but all of us Jewish. It's amazing for me to be in the space, particularly because I do primarily work in diverse spaces, right? So to deal with the diversity of the Jewish community and have my Jewish sisters has been incredible. And I need that. And I think it's important to have those affinity spaces. We also have to come together. There have to be spaces where we cross those barriers and come together if we're going to make change. We have to work side by side as well. We have to be allies to one another as well. And when we do that, we can have these discussions that get rid of, it's just about fear, right? We can get over that fear that everybody has. I don't know if I answered that question at all.
No, you definitely answered that question. And you sort of led me to my last question, you know, by referring a little bit to the collective. You know, I just wanted to ask you about your participation in the collective and how it has impacted your leadership or how you've leveraged the relationships of that group of women, you know, throughout the last year and a half.
Yeah, it's been magical. And it came at such a time during the pandemic where that desire for connection was so strong. And then, as I mentioned, my co-founder passed away in January of 2021. And to have this sisterhood of support has just been amazing. And my own cohort, especially, I feel very connected to them, but getting to be in person with everybody in the fall was really beautiful as well. And to just have these, we're a strange breed, founder, executive directors. It's a weird kind of position to be in where I feel like a lot of people offer advice, which is awesome, but there's very few people who are in our shoes, right? And it's amazing to be with people who are in a similar position, and then add to that they're Jewish women. When I'm used to working in a diverse space, it's amazing to be around diverse Jewish women, but Jewish women. And it's just been so inspiring. I feel like we learn so much from one another in the formal gatherings we do, where we share our struggles, and we learn from Ruth and Rachel, and I learned so much there, and also even offline in phone calls with my fellow cohort. And we also have a WhatsApp group going, which is very active. We're on it every day, and we're commiserating, we're giving advice, we're sharing ideas. I think literally somebody writes something every single day. And it's been a magical experience. I just feel so lucky and so honored and so special, and just grateful to be part of it. And I love the name Jewel. Can I just say that? I love to say that I'm a jewel. And I love the new name too, Illuminate. And I think your logo is really pretty.
Thank you. Well, you are a jewel. And, you know, we're always inspired by the brilliance of all of you, literal and figurative brilliance. And you're precious because you're doing really, really, really important work in this world. And It's a privilege to be supporting you. I think most of us wish we could be on that WhatsApp chat because, like you're all rock stars, and we just so respect everything that you're doing to make this world a better place. So thank you for giving this time today. Thank you to everyone who's joining. I want to invite Rachel Siegel back on to close us out.
Thank you so much, Lara, for taking the
you.
time to share this wisdom, your extraordinary story, and also your experience participating in the collective. And thank you, Rachel, for leading us through this conversation. We don't have to hope that things will be different when we have leaders like Lara to guide us. In the United States, all over the world, we actually can believe that change will happen. We're so inspired, Lara, by your leadership, your extraordinary story, and we hope that everyone on this call is as well. If you've been with us before, you know that we always like to share a few actions that you can take. We encourage you to check out the Mosaic Project's website, where you'll find a plethora of resources, including some that we've put in the chat today. Well, we also would love to have you join Lara on her project on Saturday, March 4th, for their communal fundraising virtual brunch. We'll email you more action items that you can take to support Lara's work tomorrow. We offer these sessions at no cost to you, but if you find value in what we're doing, we hope you'll consider 2 donations. The first one to Mosaic Project in support of Lara's work, and the other to Illuminate. If you've enjoyed our conversation today, we hope you'll join us at our next conversation in the series, which will be on Monday, April 3rd, with Dr. Sarah Shapiro-Plevin, the CEO of the Gender Equity in Hiring Project in the Jewish community. Thank you again for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you soon. And Hag Sameach, have a very happy Purim. Bye, everyone.
Hag Sameach.